People nowadays don't work with their hands anymore. If you listen to society, they want you to go to college, they want you to get a degree, they want you to be a doctor, a lawyer, some kind of administrative work.
Almost any job that anybody gets paid for is adding value, and we need to respect and appreciate that.
Every week we're getting hammered by some industry that says, I don't have enough workers. And so we know the problem is the high school kids, the graduates, don't know about these jobs. If your parents didn't work in manufacturing or you're from rural South Dakota, you don't know what a machinist even is. You have no idea whether you like that or not. You don't even know it exists.
For me, there's just nothing better than to see a person succeed, whether it's education, whether it's a job, you know, for people to just have that pride or to know I can go home and feed my kids today.
Making something for me has always been very satisfying.
After you started sewing, wow, I started to like it. I couldn't believe it.
The industry had really left the country over the last couple of decades.
I've been out of work for 11 years. I've had 3 temporary jobs, thinking, okay, maybe that's going to be a toe in the door. Maybe if I can get in the door and prove to somebody that I can show up on time. You're paying me for 8 hours, you're going to get 8 hours.
I went to Minneapolis Drafting School for electromechanical design and drafting. I did drafting for about 15 years. And then I actually had a little trouble with alcoholism, so I was out of the loop for quite a while, and maybe 15 years.
I first heard about the program through my daily newspaper, Star Tribune, sitting at the kitchen table and going through the paper in the morning with breakfast, and boom, there was this article. You always hear that quote, if you work at what you're passionate about, it's not work. And I've always known my passion was sewing, but I never thought I could make a living at it.
This is not big news because it's been happening for a while now, but production is coming back to the States for a whole host of reasons. It was about 3 years ago at J.W. Kim when the fashion industry latched on to American heritage. Latched onto it. So Barney's New York came to us, oh, we love that this is handmade and it's from Minnesota. And it was absolutely a fad at that point. But what happened with that fad was it started to educate the consumer about quality, what we could actually get here in the States. So all of a sudden there was an educating that began. So what began as a fad became a category. And so the demand for cut and sew domestic manufacturing has skyrocketed.
When we wanted to hire new sewers, we were having a very difficult time finding people who knew how to sew. And so out of that was born this group that created the Makers Coalition.
I was at a networking event, and I was a guest with Louise Jones from LifeTrack Resources. And Jen Guarino, the CEO for J.W. Hume at the time, received an award at the Chamber of Commerce, and it was for fastest growing company in St. Paul. And when she stood up and received this award, she said that the one barrier she has is finding skilled people.
Louise from LifeTrack Resources came up and said, I think we should talk about some solutions to that. That led to meeting Deborah from Dunwoody College and Tatiana from LifeTrack Resources.
I said, Jen, if you can bring 9 or 10 employers to the table and tell me that they all have that same need, Dunwoody will write a program for you. And it took off like lightning.
So we brought everybody together. We had a round table. We asked questions. We did surveys. Dunwoody helped us to ask all the right questions, and we proved that there was a need. And that need equated to about 90 immediate openings in the industrial sewing industry.
You just go around and you keep doing that until it looks good, and that's when you do your stitching in the ditch, okay?
So we worked very hard with Deborah to create that curriculum, and LifeTrack Resources helped us to find scholarships for the first students.
A lot of times you're looking at training adults who also have to keep jobs, support families, or there might be low-income individuals with a lot of obstacles. So paying tuition is often really not an option.
The first two classes, one was $1,200, the other one was like $400 or $500, and I'm going, oh God, how am I going to pay for this? And I thought, this is just, I have to find a way.
We were lucky to receive a $75,000 grant, which enabled us to provide 15 full scholarships, including books and everything, to the starting class.
After talking with Tatiana, she said, well, I'm going to get verklempt here. She said, I've got one scholarship left, and I'm going to give it to you.
And I think she was still really nervous, and she was like, well, what's the amount of the scholarship? And I said, well, it's a full scholarship.
This is like close to $5,000. I lost it. I just, I'm sorry. I was dumbfounded that somebody would believe in me that hadn't even met me.
This is not a design curriculum. You are going to this curriculum because you want to produce, okay? You want to produce product.
You're trying to move the product through at a pace at which you say it has to be done in order to make any money.
The first group that graduated in January just completed in June their internship. We have 90% placement with the students who did graduate. Some of the students that came into the program, there's some that are homeless, there's some that have lost their job and haven't been working for several years, some that are retired and have no retirement and need to work still. You hope to guarantee that they'll get placed. So it's very important to know at the end of the tunnel there is a job.
I don't know that I have the creativeness to design things, but I know I'm a great technician when that designer wants something put together. And I'd be happy with that.
Well, what really feels good is just to have a job again. You know, I know I'm older, I'm 61 now, but I don't ever really want to retire. It feels good to actually just to be a productive member of society again.